how to form relationships with senior people. This is an incredibly important topic, and I learned this the hard way in my own life. I went to an undergraduate business school where the whole school was just a factory to go into investment banking. And all I wanted to do was get one of those dream jobs, right? I thought that if I worked in investment banking, it'd be my golden ticket. So I bust my butt, get good grades, get the job, right? I was pretty good at using my charisma to get the recruiting game won. And because of that, I'm at this job busting my butt to get an offer. I'm working countless nights. I'm working weekends. I'm sleeping in the office. Like as a 21-year-old kid in New York, like I'm sacrificing, right? You can imagine how much I want this. And at the end of the day, I don't get the offer. 10 weeks go by. They say, listen, your reviews are great. We're happy to give you references, but we don't want you to work here. And I was devastated, right, as you can imagine. So I asked why. And they say, the truth is there's two guys that make the decision. It's the two guys at the top. They didn't think you were a good fit. And that basically just means they didn't like me. So I take this really hard for about a week, but then I'm like, all right, never again. This will never, ever be the thing that costs me my dream job again. So I get deep into how do you form relationships with senior people? How do I have conversations that don't feel forced, that are interesting to them, where they actually want to talk to me? And this course is going to show you everything about that, everything from having the conversation in the office to taking the relationship past work and to how to interact with them while you're working so they like you. And luckily for me, I figured all this out, and the story has a happy ending because at the end of my 2 years of full-time investment banking, my exit review, not only do I get to be in the top class of bonuses, I get paid as much as anyone in my year, but I got told I was culturally accretive, which means that they like me. And when your bosses like you, as you can imagine, this means more money, promotions, good references. It's just jet fuel for your career. All right, so before we hop in and talk about how to start these conversations with senior people and how to connect on things outside of work and steer conversations in a way that makes them like, I want to talk about two very quick but super important foundational things, okay? The first one is you have to be willing to make an impression. This is more of a mindset than anything else, really. This isn't like what to talk about, but you want to be willing to make an impression. This is something I screwed up when I was that intern I was telling you about. And I see people screw this up all the time. You try to not make a bad impression. And by doing that, you make no impression. So you bite your tongue on jokes, and you don't ask questions in meetings because you don't want to look dumb. And you do all this stuff to try to prevent bad impressions. You make no impression, and then you're just a grunt. You're a cog in the machine. If you do good work, they'll keep you. They're not going to fire you, but that's not how you make someone like you. It's not how you become their favorite. It's not how you get a mentor, okay? So that's the first thing. It's just a mindset, but you need to be willing to make an impression. And the second thing is be positive. Now, this is something that we talk about in all of our stuff, whether it's dating or Charisma University or whatever it is, but this idea in work gets flipped and confused because people want to be like, hardworking, right? So they talk about how stressed they are. They talk about how long they've been working, their hours and all this stuff. And they think that makes them look good, but it actually is just irritating to be around, right? Imagine you're a senior person, you got your own work, plus you paid your dues, and now here's this junior person telling you how hard their life is. You just don't want to hear it. You don't want to be around it, right? So the flip of that is someone who grinds it out, works really hard, does great work, but they're happy, right? They're positive. They're upbeat. You say, hey, how's it going? They go, oh, I'm great. How are you? Or, oh, it's been tough, but, project's going really well. Like, even if the words are, oh, it's tough, or, oh, I'm working hard, said with a smile, with good body language, and that just general positive energy, that's what makes senior people want to be around you. And if they want to be around you and you're making an impression, that impression is good, you're in a good spot. So two very, very easy foundational things, but it's just worth bringing up because I see so many people do it wrong. Make an impression. Don't be scared to make an impression, and make sure it's a positive one. And if you do that, you're in a great spot. Now let's talk about how to actually have these conversations that lead to a relationship. All right, let's hop into the meat now of how to have conversations that get senior people to like you and start to form a relationship. Okay, there's 3 ways to do this. The first one I want to touch on is just talk about things with them that they like. It's that simple. Okay, start conversations with them about topics that they like. Why does that matter, and why is that helpful for you? Because as humans, there's this weird thing where whenever we feel an emotion around somebody else, we associate that emotion with them. That's why oftentimes it's not the best idea if somebody is going through a breakup, let's say, to want to be the shoulder they cry on, because if they're just always talking to you about the heartache they have, they start to associate that heartache with you. Well, it's exactly the same way in the office. So if you have a boss, I'll use an example from my own life, who loves fishing, right? I didn't grow up fishing. I don't know anything about fishing or the different baits or the different type of fish. All I know is tuna sashimi is purple and salmon is orange, right? But I asked this guy about fishing because he likes fishing. And how do I know that? Well, it's simple. I walk into his office. He's got fishing magazines. He's got pictures of fishing. He's got maybe a keychain. Context clues. You'll get a sense for what your boss likes outside of the office. And that's crucial. It's something that's not work or work related. Okay? So in this case, it's fishing, and I see it and I go, oh, wow, like a lot of fishing stuff around. Do you fish? Right? It's very simple, basic, just to float the conversation out there. He goes, yeah, we start talking about it a little bit, this and that. And I just ask him questions and get him talking about the things he likes. He gets really excited. He starts to be animated and happy in the conversation. And then I go, all right, cool. Well, anyway, I'll get working on this project right away. And I walk out. He's smiling, thinking to himself about fishing. He's feeling good. He associates that to me. So it's an incredibly powerful tool you can use to just start to get these positive associations with the senior person and yourself. All right, this is going to be a very, very quick video, but it's something that I get asked as a follow-up to the last one, so I figure let's just talk about it. And that is, how do you know what to talk about, and how do you bring it up? So how do you know what to talk about? You just got to keep your eyes and ears open, or you got to ask. So 1, look at the person's wall, look at the keychain, look at the desk. 2 is, if that senior person has an assistant, just ask them. Oh, yeah, I just started working here. Or, oh, hey, like I don't know this partner that well. What do they like? What are they into? What do they do? Okay? That will give you the ammunition that you need to start these conversations. And then the more common question I get asked is, how do I bring it up? So there's one text, right? You see it on the wall, you see it here and that. But the second thing is, whatever that hobby is, start to keep your eyes and ears out for it. Okay? So if it's on television, you should know. Or if you're in the airport with that person and you see a magazine, bring it up. But you basically just set your RAS. You just look in your environment for things that are happening about this hobby or this passion and bring them up with your boss, right? So if they like golf, talk about the Masters when they come up. They like fishing, Google when are the biggest fishing tournaments or whatever it may be. And it just gives you an excuse to start the conversation. All right, the second piece of advice here in terms of how to have these conversations is ask higher quality questions that lead to higher quality conversations. Because you can talk about something that someone likes in a very boring way. So if I find out that one of my, people I want to connect with likes golf, and I walk up and I say, oh, hey, how's it going? I heard you like golf. He goes, oh, yeah, I love golf. And you go, oh, cool. Did you see the Masters? And he goes, yeah. And you're like, it was good, huh? And they go, yeah, it was good. I'm not asking any interesting questions. I'm asking questions that you can simply give a yes/no answer to, right? Instead, think about this like reflex questions, right? Anyone who's been in Charisma University or read some of our stuff, this idea of common questions you know are going to come up and then how you want to answer them. Only here it's like the opposite, because you know you're going to talk about fishing or golf or art or the children with this person. So think about ahead of time, what can I ask that might lead to a more interesting conversation? We'll talk about a little bit later how to do this in a way where you don't come off as a tryhard, but for now, just think about like, what would I want to be asked if this were my passion or hobby that would get me excited and talking? So that is the second thing that's really important. The third thing that's really important, you have to make time for this. So you're going to be busy, you're working, and you're going to see your boss go to get coffee or go to get water or ask you to come to lunch. Say yes. Say yes every time. Even if it means you have to stay a half hour later, it's worth it, okay? Now, the converse is if they're busy, leave them alone. Don't run in their office to talk about whatever their passions are while they're grinding. But if they give you the opportunity, or if you see the opportunity to just go have a 5-minute conversation, make it a priority. And this especially means attend all work events. Like if it's a party or drinks or lunch or something for the holidays, go and seek this person out and make the conversation happen. And if you do that, you'll find you get enough shots on goal, so to speak, that eventually you'll connect and you'll get this person excitedly talking. All right, so now that you've got them talking about the things they're interested in besides work, you can start to seed a real relationship. And that's where the second part comes in. You want to start looking for commonalities you have, passions you share, or activities that you both do, because that's going to let you take your relationship from a work relationship to a genuine relationship. A great example of this is when I was in private equity, the guy that ran the whole New York office was an avid CrossFitter. How did I know that? Because I saw him walk to the kitchen one day, and like I said before, you take the opportunity to talk to these guys, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop doing my work. I'm going to go talk to this guy for 5 minutes in the kitchen. Get up, I grab a water, he grabs a water, and he's wearing a CrossFit shirt. And I ask him about it. That's it. I just go, oh, CrossFit, like, do you do that? Do you do it, right? It's that simple. And he's like, yeah, I love it. I go to the gym down the street, blah, blah, blah. And because he's excited about it, I know it's a topic to dig into, and we keep talking. I mentioned that I do it as well, and that's it. We don't go work out together. It's not like this huge thing, but now he knows I like CrossFit. I know he likes CrossFit. Maybe a week or two goes by, and then I ask him about it again. He asks me about it at some point, and it's just this topic of conversation that goes beyond the analysis I'm doing for him or the deals we're on together, right? So we're just talking about things that we both like. And eventually, maybe 6 weeks down the road, we end up working out together for the first time. And we don't become like gym buddies. We're not all of a sudden, best friends, but we worked out together maybe 6 times over the course of the next 2 years. And he would take me to morning workouts that he would do with other senior people. And it just starts to crack your role open from, analyst, low level. I was at this point just as low as you could get in the company to person with shared interests, person I work out with. So that's a really, really, really powerful thing you can do to start to form a real relationship, is just connect on anything that you both have in common. One of my clients did this in a phenomenal way. He started a softball league for his office. He used to play pro baseball. Everybody found out about it, and it's really exciting. And so people would say, oh, I used to play in high school, or oh, this and that. And he would just keep track of who was interested in this thing that he used to do. And then he formed a softball team. And now once a week, they're all hanging out together outside of the office, doing this thing that is fun, that they all enjoy together. So this isn't just relegated to sports or athletics. This can be music. I've seen foodies do this, talking about restaurants. I've seen people who are both into scotch go get drinks together with senior people. So anything that they're passionate about, that you're passionate about, you can connect on. And that's why it's so important to find out what they like and start to look for these commonalities. All right, so now you might be thinking, great, that's good for you, Ben. You and the partner used to have the same exact hobby. What do I do? The people in my office and I have nothing in common, right? And that's okay, because the third thing you can do that really helps you form relationships with these senior people, just start talking about the things that you're interested in. Even if they don't share it, it just goes back to what we talked about before of have a personality and make an impression instead of just being the hardworking guy that they know nothing about, right? The person that comes in the office and just grinds it out on your computer every day and then goes home and doesn't really say anything. Just share what you care about, even if they're not super interested in it themselves. As long as you're not forcing it down their throat, they'll like to hear about what excites you, right? We all got mirror neurons. When someone's talking about something that they like and they get excited about it, it makes us happy, in some small way. And I have a hobby that I think I would put up there with no one has in common. I don't care what you're interested in. This is at least a tie with it, and that's MMA, right? There's none of my partners, none of the bosses or directors at any of my firms were interested in becoming cage fighters ever in their lives. But I was really passionate about it, and so I bring it up. And how do you bring it up? You just wait for them to ask you, hey, how was your weekend? Or, hey, what are you doing tonight? And instead of saying, oh, my weekend was good, say, oh, my weekend was great. This Saturday I had an incredible workout at my MMA gym. It was awesome. One of the pros came in. You stop there. You don't tell a 10-minute story that nobody asked for, right? That's try hard. We'll talk about later how to avoid being a try hard, but that would be how to be a try hard. So you don't jam it down their throat. You just say, hey, here's 2 sentences about my hobby. Or, oh, how was your weekend? Oh, it was awesome. Like, I put on my first, violin show. I used to work with a woman who played in an orchestra, and we all knew it because she would just say it casually like that, and then people can ask questions or follow-ups about it. Now, I shared MMA with every person I worked with. Not everyone cared, but some people did. One of the bosses that I used to work for, he was a marathon runner, and I think he saw commonalities in, the grind of them both. And even though he'd no experience fighting, he thought it was cool that I liked it. And so he would send me articles that he found about MMA. He'd send me when new gyms were opening up. It just allowed us to, again, have an avenue to discuss anything besides work, and it let us kind of flesh out our image of each other to be more than just guy that tells me what to do and dude that reads accounting documents for me and summarizes them. And we became the guy that runs marathons, and this is his family, and he tells me what to do. And I was the guy that sometimes stopped doing the analysis to go train MMA and then come back to do the analysis. And so even though they don't have anything that you're interested in particularly, if you're both sharing your hobbies and your passions, you can still start to form these relationships that they go from, person that doesn't know anything about you to person that starts to view you as a real human being. All right, quick bonus round. This is something that is similar to what we've talked about before, but it's, I think, like the best that you can do. This is like the highest level thing that you can do with your time to form lots of relationships with people in your office. And that's find something that multiple people in the office like to do, and then orchestrate something around that. And you don't even have to like it yourself. But when I was in investment banking, I saw one of the analysts organize a fantasy golf league for all the partners that like golf. And he got maybe 8 people involved. And every single time that there was a Masters or, I don't know anything about golf, but whatever the other, tournaments are called, they would all be talking about this fantasy golf league nonstop. They'd be talking trash to each other. They'd be talking about trades. They'd be talking about who was winning. You don't even have to like golf to orchestrate a fantasy golf league. And it gives you an opportunity to connect with multiple people that are senior people you might want to get to know. Similarly, I saw somebody once found all the people who like running in the office, and they started to organize office runs, Tough Mudders that you'd run together, or Ragnar relay races that are these 3-day relay races where you spend most of the time in a van together hanging out while one person runs. So if you get 3 days of out of office time doing something that they love, you can imagine work that Monday, that following Monday, is a little bit different than it was before you'd spent 72 hours together. And so if you just keep your ears out for what are people interested in, and is there a group of people that are interested in the same thing, you can start to orchestrate and be the leader of this small thing that everybody in the office gets excited about. I happen to suck at basketball, but I like basketball. And so when I was working, I organized a basketball league. And it was just me, a couple of people my level, a couple of people one level above me. But it gave us an excuse to not just hang out every single week, but to talk every single day about that activity we were excited about. And that can really, really, really take your relationships to the next level quickly. And it lets you connect with multiple people in a short amount of time. All right, now let's talk about your work, because not surprisingly, your work is going to affect your work relationships, right? And there are 3 big tips here that they're simple enough to follow, but they make a big difference in terms of your relationships with the senior people you work with. The first thing that I want to talk about is communication. So everybody is different. There's a spectrum of people that you'll work with, but there basically are 2 types of people. One is the person that wants constant updates on your project. They assume if they don't hear from you, you're not working on it. The second is the person that just wants to be told when it's done. And so you'll have senior people who give you a project and they say, listen, do your thing, work on it. I don't want to hear about it unless you have questions or there's something for me to actually look at. The problem is if you don't know which is which, you end up over communicating to someone that wants to be left alone or under communicating to someone that wants to hear from you. It's not good, and it stresses out this person, and then they don't like working with you. So how do you know? You ask. It's that simple. You just ask. When you get put on a new project, make sure that you sit down with the person and you say, I'm really excited to work with you, and I just want to make sure that we communicate in a style that you like. So I know some people like to be constantly out there, to be left alone until there's something to look at. What do you prefer? Right? This is good for two reasons. One, you'll get it right, so you'll be communicating in the way that they like. And two, you will get bonus points because you are actually showing you care, and that strengthens the relationship. The only caveat here is your tonality is huge. If you come into someone's office, you sit down and you go, so I'm really, really excited about this project, and I just want to make sure that I get it right, and I just want to, I want to talk to you about communication because I know that some people like to, and you're tentative and you are acting like you don't want to screw up. That is going to be bad. Go in there like you're a champ, like you're a rock star, and you are going to kill this, and just say simply, hey, I'm really excited to get started on this. I want to talk to you really quickly about communication because I just want to make sure that I am updating you as often as you want, and go from there. If you do that, you're going to get an incredibly positive response, and the project will go well, your relationship will be strengthened. So that's tip number one, and now let's go to number two. All right, tip number two. This is a quick one, but super important, and it's not true 100% of the time, but with 95% of people, this is going to prove out, and that's that 50% done to 100% perfection is better than 100% done to 90% perfection. What does that mean? Let's just take a couple of random examples. If you're doing an analysis, right, and it's supposed to be done on a Thursday, and you can't get it done in time, we're going to talk more about what to do, but make sure that whatever is done, whatever you do show, is correct. No errors in your numbers, formatted well, easily presentable. If you're doing a slide deck, for instance, in PowerPoint, just have things completely blank that say analysis to come or graph to come, and explain to the person this is in the process, you're close to being finished. What you don't want to do is sit down with 100 slides, say, here you go, they're all done, and have even 4 mistakes in the slide deck, because that makes people feel like they can't be confident in the quality of your work, and now they have to check everything you do. So 50% done to 100% perfection beats 100% done, but with some mistakes. That's tip 2. Let's talk tip 3. All right, the third tip for your work that will improve your work relationships is occasionally go the extra mile. Now, I say occasionally because my advice is not to sleep in the office, burn yourself out, and just dedicate your whole life to work. One, it's totally unnecessary. You don't have to do it. And 2, that would just suck, right? So occasionally go the extra mile. Now, there's 2 things that you have to be really careful of. One is you don't want to be the unsung hero here. So you don't want to put in a bunch of extra time and bunch of extra effort and then have no one know that you're doing it. But 2 is you don't want to be a braggart. So you don't want to be constantly talking about how you work so hard and so this and so that and all that. What you want to do is find opportunities where you can do like a little bit extra for a lot of extra output. So that way you're not burning yourself to the ground, but you are going the extra mile. And when you do, make sure that people know about it. This can be as simple as a late email, an email that is going to be time-stamped with the time, or just the quality of your work. And the most important times to look for this, think what would make this person's life easier, right? The senior person you're working with, how can you make their life better? Because that's what they want, and that's what they'll notice, right? So that's when you can actually go the extra mile, and they'll notice it without you saying something, because they notice their life being easier. So if most people present data in, maybe just laid out as numbers, and you take the extra time to format it into a PowerPoint or a chart, something like that, that can really help. Making things color-coded can really help. If you do a manual labor job, cleaning your workstation, that's something that I know a lot of my friends that work in nightlife, huge, huge bonus points, not a lot of extra time. You just worked an 8-hour shift, take a half hour, right? I don't know what % increase that is in work, but it's not a lot. Make sure your workstation's clean. You get those, you noticed bonus points. Okay? So that's the third thing. Occasionally go the extra mile, but only when it's not that inconvenient and it's going to be noticed because it's making someone's life easier. Now let's talk damage control, and specifically two things to do when things aren't going super smoothly. The first one is if you're gonna miss a deadline because work is taking longer than you expected, you have to correct the expectations as soon as possible. A lot of people will, let's say they're 5 days away from a deadline, realize, oh man, this might take 6 days or 7 days, but I'm gonna try to hit it, I'm gonna try to hit it, I'm gonna try to hit it. By day, 2 days from the deadline, they're going, there's no way I'm gonna hit this, but I'm gonna try. And then the day of the deadline, they go to their boss, they go, boss, this isn't gonna be done in time, right? That is no good. That is how you end up getting reamed. Conversely, if maybe you have a 5-day deadline, you go, I think this is gonna take 6 days, but maybe I can pull it off. You give it a shot. Maybe you pull it off, right? And you're a hero. But if with 3 days left, you go, you know what, this is definitely gonna take at least 4 days, if not 5, that's when you wanna correct expectations with your boss. And one quick kind of thing to think about in terms of the psychology of that conversation, don't go in and say, hey, I just want to let you know, I realize this is going to take me 4 days instead of 3. Talk about it not like it's because you're slow, but because the work and the project is so big. Say, hey, I just realized this is 4 days worth of work, and as much as I've been busting my butt to try to get it done by Thursday, I'm going to need till Friday, or I'd love if it's possible to extend until Friday, right? And if you frame it like that, you're on the same team, you both want to get the work done, but you just can't, right? You're much more likely to get a positive response. And if you do that with days heads up, then the senior person can plan around it. So that's the first thing to do if you realize that you're going to miss a deadline. All right, the last thing for damage control. Now, we all screw up. We all make mistakes. You're going to screw up on the job. I screwed up on the job. The person you're working with has certainly screwed up on the job. So it's okay as mistakes occur. But you want to own your mistakes right away. A lot of people, when they screw up in business or in life, try to deflect, or they try to pretend it didn't happen. They hope no one noticed, or they don't say anything because they just want it to go away, right? Own your mistakes and own them immediately. There's a great example from Charlie's work in the consulting world that I think really illustrates this. He had to do a PowerPoint presentation for a client, and he showed his boss the slides. They go through it, all looks good. The client, they're going through it, and it turns out he just flubbed a couple of numbers, right? Consultant that he works with, works to recover, flips over those slides really quickly. Everyone notices, but it doesn't kill the meeting. Right, but Charlie knows he's screwed it up. And there's a call the next day and with the whole team. On that call, this senior consultant basically says, Charlie, what the F? You really dropped the ball. Charlie could have started defending himself. He could have said, no, well, here's what happened. Or he said, oh, it's not that big a deal. But instead, he just goes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry I screwed it up. It won't happen again. It's totally my fault. And he switches it from a blame game to owning it and going towards a solution. And what ended up happening, which is amazing, is the senior person in front of the whole rest of the team actually starts defending Charlie, because Charlie has done everything we talked about to form a relationship with the guy, and the guy likes him. He goes, no, don't beat yourself up too bad. Could happen to anyone. It's not that big a deal. Don't worry about it. Let's just talk about the next meeting. So what could have turned into Charlie defending himself while this guy plays prosecutor and just reams him, turns into Charlie taking the blame, looking incredibly mature, and the senior person defending him in front of the rest of the team. So if you screw up, own it right away and change it from a conversation about the mistake to solutions going forward. I want to end this section about work-related communication by talking about your own feedback. Now, this is definitely true if you're a senior person or a mid-level person, but even if you're the most junior person at your entire firm, you are going to have opportunities to get feedback. And the key thing is make your positive feedback public. Give good feedback in front of other people. This makes a world of difference at all levels. For instance, when I was in investment banking, I worked very closely with an associate. So I'm an analyst, bottom of the totem pole, gets no lower than me. Associate is one level above, and then normally on the deal there'd be a VP and a partner. And so in this one meeting, it's a partner, the associate, and I. Now, The associate's not the most senior person at the firm, but he does pretty much control what projects I work on, how late I have to work, what my deadlines are. So a good relationship with this guy, that is my life, right? This determines if I have a Friday night or if I'm sleeping in the office. So it's a guy I care about. I also really like the guy. So it's a guy I care about. And we're in this meeting, and we had just given a presentation to a client. And the partner goes, Ben, great work on the slide deck. Really, really impressive stuff. And I could have just gone, oh, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity to credit this associate who did do fantastic work and helped me a lot. So he says, Ben, great job. You really, really phenomenal work. It's like, you know what? Credit to, and this guy's name, so credit to this guy. He absolutely killed it. I couldn't have done it without him. He was super helpful. And obviously, because the partner is the person who decides if the associate gets promoted, what their bucket for bonus is, all this stuff, this matters a lot to the associate. And it doesn't necessarily take that much away from me. So at very little cost to myself, I've now made the associate look better in the partner's eyes, and the associate loves me for it, right? So take opportunities to publicly just say thank you for good work or to reward good work. Now, tone here is huge, because if I come off as a suck up, I shoot myself completely in the foot. I look bad in front of the partner and the associate. So if, again, he says, oh, fantastic work, and I go, oh, I really couldn't have done it without this person. He's such a great guy and really just an incredible associate. And I just want to take the time to commend him in front of you. It feels forced, right? It feels like I'm trying too hard. And because of that, it doesn't feel real. It feels disingenuous. But if I can make sure to deliver it in a speaking tone, like it's just, not something that I think is a super big deal, but just something worth saying, oh, thanks, but I really couldn't have done it without this guy. He killed it as much or more than I did. That kind of tone will get accepted as genuine and really, really, really help. Now, if you're a senior person, right, so you might be thinking, oh, junior person, yeah, I get it. These people control your pay and your work, and so you want to have them like you. If you're a mid-level or senior person, public praise to your junior people is going to make them adore you. And when the people below you adore you, they will work harder for you. I will tell you firsthand that when you look across this analyst pool at any company, right, when you work with the people below you, they are giving a variety of effort depending on who they work with. And I know people who, when they didn't necessarily like a VP, they would mail it and they go, what is the least I can do to just get this project done? But if it's someone they adore, they bust their butt to make sure that they're giving 110% and doing good work because they want that person to succeed. So at all levels, give public positive feedback when you have it. Let's finish up by talking about going beyond in-office chit-chat. So I already talked about how to try to lead to relationships that go outside the office, right? Starting Ragnar runs, CrossFit, fantasy golf leagues, right? All these things where you initiate things. But sometimes, depending on the office and depending on what your job is, it can be tough to be the guy who's initiating these things. And that's why, like I talked about before, you really want to take whatever opportunities are given to you to just have conversations with these people about things besides work. Now, if you follow all the advice that we've talked about up to this point, you're going to have people liking you and you're going to get opportunities. You're going to get asked to go to coffee or lunch, grab a drink, even one-off things like, hey, come to my holiday party, right? And when you do, it's super important that you talk about something besides work. I see people fumble this all the time. They get a person to like them because they work hard and they're smiling and they are lavish with their praise, and so they get invited to go to lunch, right? With somebody who's maybe a very senior person in the company and doesn't often take people at their level to go out to lunch for an hour. They spend the whole time talking about work. They don't let the person learn anything about who they are or what they're interested in. They don't do anything to learn about the senior person except for, war stories from the office. And that's a huge mistake and a big dropped opportunity. So get talking about things besides work. The second thing is take opportunities to kind of go above and beyond when it's not that costly in these scenarios as well. So we talked about how to do this for work, but things like, let's say a senior person takes you out to lunch. And obviously they have more money than you. They're going to probably treat you. But if you as a junior person say, you know what, I really enjoyed this, I would love to actually pick up the tab and you get the next one. right? That little gesture does a ton. I mean, if you've ever read Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, reciprocation is a huge part of human psychology. So these little things, they make a big difference. I'll give an example. When I was in private equity, I got invited to a Christmas party at someone's apartment, right? And this was awesome because I'm meeting their friends, I'm meeting their significant other, I'm not in a suit, right? So I make sure to meet as many people as possible, to have real conversations that aren't about just me and my boss and work. But in addition to that, I bring a gift. Now, a lot of people bring gifts to holiday parties. Most of the people that were my level weren't bringing anything, but I made sure I found out his favorite type of alcohol, right? I talked to his assistant and said, what kind of alcohol does he like? And I bought a nice bottle. I could have bought a $50 bottle, but I think I bought maybe a $100 bottle. This is not breaking the bank for me. It's only an additional 50 bucks, right? You should have seen the next day when he saw he's like, oh my God, I opened it and I couldn't believe it. Like, this is so, you didn't have to do that. Incredible. It was a turning point in the relationship, and it really helped to strengthen our bond. So if you are taking the opportunity to hang out with these people out of the office, don't talk about work, talk about other things, and when you can, without being a suck up, do nice things. Unspoken, right? I wrote a note, but I didn't say, hey, did you check out that gift? Just do things that are a little over the top. Small gestures make a big difference. All right, that's a wrap. We got to the end. I really, really hope that this was helpful for you. I want to end just by giving you one mindset. If I could summarize all of this into something that's easy for you to just take with you and remember, it's this. If you make your company more money, specifically the senior people in your company more money, and you make their lives easier, and it's enjoyable to be around you, people are going to love you. So just think in that context. Make them more money, make their lives easier, and make it enjoyable to be around you, and you're going to have killer relationships. And that's it. Don't try to do this all in a day. These things take time. Give yourself permission to build these up over days and weeks and months. But if you follow the steps we've laid out here, I guarantee you're going to have incredible relationships with the senior people. All right, now I want to talk about something that I see people screw up a lot, and I used to screw this up myself as well. This is a big caveat. This is the asterisk next to everything we just talked about, and this is don't be a tryhard. Now, that's vague advice, so let's dive into exactly what that means. But basically, if you are a junior person trying to connect to a senior person, and it feels like instead of the connection happening naturally, you're like trying to force it because you want something from them or because you think they're so above you, that's actually a huge turnoff. I mean, you can imagine if you're a senior person and you have this junior level employee that's just constantly hounding you and trying to force you into conversations you don't want to be in, instead of liking that person more, you actually want to distance yourself from them. So that's what we want to avoid. And there's really two things that lead to people coming off as a tryhard. The one that I was very guilty of as an intern was I would force conversation to happen. And what that means is I would see the senior people and I'd have bit my tongue for the first 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it was, and I really wanted to connect with these guys because I kind of had a sense of what was coming, that they didn't necessarily like me. So if I heard them talking about basketball, a topic that I love, a sport I played and I watched, this should have been easy to connect on. And they would talk about basketball. I would jump in, right? And I would oh, you guys talking about basketball? I love basketball. And I would be incredibly over-eager. That is the first thing that I see people screw up a lot. And that's a lesson that I had to learn myself. When you're talking to these senior people, you want to talk to them like they're people, exactly like you would with your peers, right? It's okay to be excited some of the time. But if you're constantly being effusive, oh, you love fishing? That's so cool. You love golf? That's amazing. Like, tons of people like golf. Wait until you actually learn something about them that is amazing before you say, wow, that's amazing. If you can hold back on that over-eager, constantly excited, always exclamation points, then you will actually be treating them like a person instead of like somebody that you put on a pedestal or are in awe of, right? So that's the first thing is don't force it, don't overact, basically. And then the second thing is you want to make sure that you're pinging for their interest, especially when we talk about the third thing, talking about your own hobbies. But even when you're talking about theirs, don't go into a 10-minute conversation uninvited, right? Without any hints from them that they want you to talk right now. If you just launch into a 10-minute story about your violin concert or your MMA competition, they might not care, and then they'll get bored, and then they'll want to escape, and then they'll try to avoid you so that you don't get trapped again, right? We've all seen this in friends or in office. There's a person who doesn't quite know how to read interest, and they trap you, right? I had a good friend in college who was the master of this, and people just started to avoid him in social situations. So the opposite of that is ping for interest. Someone says that they really like golf, say, oh, and then ask one question. If they give a one-word answer, two-word answer, let it go for now. If you say, oh, I do MMA, don't just go into an entire history of the sport or your interest in the sport. Instead, when they're like, what'd you do this weekend? You just seed it. You just throw out a ping that says, oh, this weekend was so awesome. I did this and this and this. And you're done. If they're interested in any of those three topics, they can ask you, right? And if they ask you, then feel free to start to elaborate. But if they don't ask you, let it go. No loss, no harm. You could even bring the same topic up a week or two later. These are long relationships. So if you don't force it and act overeager about it, and you don't over-elaborate and make people listen to 10-minute stories without first pinging to make sure they're interested, you will avoid being a tryhard and you'll come across as genuine, and these conversations you're having will lead to a stronger connection instead of what could be pushing you further away from your goal.